It says we're live,
It
so
does say we're live. It's been so long
welcome to All
since we did
Things
this.
Metaphysical Podcast with Kellie and Gail. It has been a while since we have done one, I think a couple months.
Yeah, yeah,
So
it's been a while.
we've decided that we're going to try and do one a month going forward because there's so much going on that we're both dealing with right now and in the world and helping with all of that. That the podcast kind of got put back on the back burner for a little while. But it's funny, today we both got a lot of messages saying, "When are you doing another podcast?" And we're like, "Funny, we're doing one tonight." Welcome to our viewers who we started a couple minutes early. So we get really tired of waiting around. So we're not really good at following the time constraints since there's
No,
no such thing as time anyway.
we do not
So
follow directions.
if you guys have questions, put them in the comments section. But like I said, we thought we would just come on and talk about the anger, the frustration, the sadness that everyone's feeling. And actually, before the events happened over the weekend, what we were going to talk about was, it's what, 2 years now from COVID and, the trauma and all of that as well. So there's just been going there's just been going on. There's just been so much going on. Apparently, my
Yeah,
mouth is
that.
not connected to my brain. So we thought we would just cover a variety of different things. And if you guys have questions, put them in the comments section, and we will do our best to answer them as we talk. So, Kellie, from your perspective, how are you feeling with everything going on in the world right now?
I'm spending most of my time in other dimensions, honestly. Like this one is too much. I just kind of dropped out of society for several days,
Mhm.
and it just it affects me. It deeply affects me, And the more my gifts become what they're becoming, the more it affects me. And I'm hearing from other people who are kind of just starting this journey, and some of my students too are saying,
Mhm.
"What is going on?" And people are just having a really hard time making sense of anything with the energy the way it is. It's just wonky.
Yeah. And, I think the rest of 2023 is just going to be wonky.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's some big shifts that are going to be happening, but honestly, I don't think it's going to make a difference. I really, I don't think it's going to make a difference. I think things are going to pretty much stay the same. On personal levels, some people might feel a shift that is very, very positive, but there are also some people who are going to go the opposite direction. So that's kind of something to look at. And it's not, it really honestly depends on your intention and your outlook in general, is what I'm hearing. If you're someone who gets caught up in the, oh my God, it's horrible, it's so negative, it's really bad, then you may be experiencing more horrible, negative, bad things in your life. Where if you're looking at it's going to work out, it always works out, it truly always works out, then you're probably going to see a positive shift. But that's happening. What I'm hearing is the middle to end of October, and then going into November. There's
Mhm.
a couple of different shifts happening.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Hold on.
So what's going on with you?
I while you were talking, I'm like, yeah, I've gone in and out of some dimensions, but for me, it's of course weird things always happen to me. We talk about that all the time. Like this morning, I went to start work because I work from home, and I'm like, I smell a man's cologne, and I thought it was my
Um,
dad's, but I don't think it was. And I'm like, he was here for a good 20, 30 minutes.
wow.
Whoever it was didn't say anything. But yes, we talked briefly this week because weird things have been happening to me.
Yep.
Especially, being that I grew up Jewish and stuff, I feel such a connection. to everything that's going on. And I wish I could say I haven't seen some of it in my third eye, but I've seen a lot of it in my third eye. The same thing happened with me with 9/11. I didn't even have to watch TV. I saw everything that was going on. So I'm
Right.
having that same kind of experience again and just getting downloads of information and ways to help and things to do with that. And then they're showing me a perspective from above, though, like seeing the whole world and what that looks like and what's
Right.
happening. You know, and sometimes through destruction, the light can be seen.
Hmm.
And that was one of the messages, as hard as that is, that was one of the messages that I got is that through the destruction that is going on in our world right now, the light will re enter.
And it will. Good always triumphs over evil, even though it might take a while, longer than we think. And so many people have given up in the last couple of years. The whole COVID energy hangover
Mhm,
is still playing in to all of this, all of the, death and destruction mindset.
mhm.
I've encountered more negative, hatefully negative people recently than I think I have in the last several years. And it's just, I think we're on an overload
Mhm.
and people are just not able to dig out. They're just not getting that we can create a better
Well,
situation.
if you look at, and it's not the same terror.
Right.
Like if you look at 9/11 in the United States when that happened, it brought
Yeah.
us together with the rest of the world.
Right.
And
Right.
we're starting to see some of that again. And I think the COVID pandemic did some of that as well. And I think it's interesting if you look at it from a broader perspective that this is a pattern we're stuck in now, right?
Right.
It's that horrific things happen and then we're all brought together, but then we don't stay together, which is kind of the direction that humanity's moving in. So we need to figure out ways of how we're all going to work together without horrific things happening.
Right. Right. And its intention is everything. And I say that all the time, but really it comes down to your intention. If your intention is to work with other people and collectively
Mhm.
find a solution, then that's what you're going to see. There's a lot of really good things happening on the planet right now, too. We just seem to always focus on the horrible stuff. And human beings can be really horrible. So, eh, we're kind of doing it to ourselves.
Yeah. So if you guys have questions or want us to talk about anything specifically, please put it in the comments section. Welcome to all our people who have signed on and are watching us. We are very grateful to have you here. And I think one of the things for me that's really come up is gratitude.
Hmm.
You know, I'm watching some news coverage, not a lot, but some news coverage, and seeing these parents or siblings or that have gone through what they've gone through, and yet they're still able to speak and they're still able to get the message out. And what they want everyone to have is compassion and hope. Because
Right,
if we lose compassion and hope, there's no room for humanity to move anywhere, right?
right,
Because that's what
right,
makes us human is that
right.
ability to have hope, that ability to have faith.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I think it depends. I mean, I think the whole world is waking up right now. I mean, there's been strikes and there's been earthquakes and there's been fires. I'm like, anyone looking at the big picture of all of this and what's the common denominator in all of this? It's about people coming together.
Right, right. Even the people and the strikes, the writer's strike is sort of winding down over right now. And so many of my friends are writers who write for TV and movies. And so I've heard it, all of it. We're not eating, help, I got to make my mortgage payment, all this stuff. And to see that some people on the other side or some people that have the money to help are actually helping out financially, a lot of these writers. And that's something, that's a coming together that I didn't think was going to happen. I mean, people helping people, what in the world? Who thought of that one? It was, but it did my heart good. It's like, whoa, they paid your mortgage. Really? Wow. So it's not all bad. But you gotta have to pick and choose, because even in light of that, I saw a story on some entertainment magazine about how one executive was saying, I hope they lose their houses. And you've got somebody else at a different studio saying, we're going to help them keep their houses. And they were both talking about the same thing, very different messages. And that's the kind of stuff we need to get together on. There's no excuse for, not helping someone if you can help them. I think you have a responsibility to help if you can.
I was reading something today, and I don't know if it's true or not, but if it is, it's amazing that there was a guy flying through New York and he had $500,000 on a credit card. And he asked if any of the people in the airport were trying to get back to Israel who had been called up. He
Yeah.
paid for 250 flights for people.
Wow.
So they're still, and it actually made me tear up because they're still good. And he's like, I don't want anyone to know who I am. It's not
Right.
important.
Right. And that's the thing that even makes it more impactful, is when people anonymously do these things. That kind of energy is what's going to help all of us on the planet. You have to start doing those things and helping each other rather than tearing each other apart before we're going to get anywhere. It's really at a crossroads now.
It's interesting because whenever we start to talk about this kind of message, the metaphysical jukebox that I call it turns on in your head, and they always sing the same song, and it's what the world needs now is love, sweet. And then they show me the Coca-Cola commercial from like the 70s. We need to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony.
Yep.
But those are the messages that are really important right now. Those are the ones we can't lose faith in.
Right. And somebody, a viewer says, so there's hope. There's always hope. You have to believe there is always hope. We can't give that up, that hoping. That is one of the major things that we need now more than ever. And just set your intention for peace, set your intention for love, set your intention that everything's going to work out. And, this really extreme hatred is going to go away, because that's really what it is. It's extreme hatred.
So I don't know what this has to do with anything, and it's probably just because I'm talking to you, but I see Native Americans doing a ceremony right now.
There you go. We did one of those the other night.
Well, maybe that's what I'm saying. But I'm seeing them pray for peace and, and that's, positive energy begets positive energy and negative energy begets negative energy. Which way do you want to go? What do you want to focus on?
Right. And that's the thing, is we need to change what we're focusing on collectively, because it's been too long that people have been focusing on what makes us different. And we need to turn that around and focus more on what makes us all the same.
Because we're one world. We might be in different countries and we might all look different, but we're one race, the human race.
Right.
And I think sometimes we forget that.
Yeah, well, it's easy if everyone around you is negative and, preaching hate. It's hard to go against that. And I think that's what's happening. I've talked to a lot of young people lately that are just in the middle of it. And many of these kids aren't even old enough to vote. So, why they're preaching politics to these kids, I have no idea, but they are. And it's, you have to vote like this and you can't vote like that because those people are horrible and those people are Satanists. And I'm like, what? I don't know that that's true, but it's that extreme hate that extreme, it's us versus them, that has indoctrinated the last generation, I think, really.
So, can we go way out there for a minute? Is that
Are you
okay?
kidding? Who are you talking to?
Well, and we were talking a little bit about this, but I think it's also something that might be useful for our viewers if we talk
Okay.
about, and that's that the world as we know it is changing, and this is the last ditch effort of evil or darkness to
Yep.
control humanity. And so that's why for my opinion, that's why we're seeing things be so off the charts
Right.
because they have nothing left and they're hanging on with everything that they've got
Yeah.
because too many people are waking up.
Right. Yep. And people are waking up and going, wait a minute, how do I get away from these idiots?
Mhm.
And that's the thing is, yes, light will always win. That's the thing with these young people, especially. There needs to be a better way. And social media is good for a lot of things. It's not necessarily good for young people, but,
Mhm.
but they are kind of finding those groups that can help, the more spiritual minded groups, not the ones who are,
We've had young people reach out to us.
right. Yeah, we have today.
When's
But
your next podcast? We're
yeah,
like,
well,
yay.
right now, actually. But it needs to be easier to find like-minded people. That's one of the things that I used to teach kids is shine your light. Mentally make a note, shine your light, let it go out. Don't hide it, don't dim it. If people are going to call you weird, that's fine. Been weird my whole life. I'm still here. Um, but it's okay to be different because only by being yourself and shining your light are the other weirdos going to find you. That's the only way it's going to happen. Um, so I do have a lot of hope for young people. I think there's a generation in there that was really subjected to a lot of hate and divisiveness. So, and I don't know what we do with them.
Sorry, they took me away for a minute
Hmm.
while you were talking. I apologize for that. I was just trying to see if they wanted me to say anything about that. I guess the only thing I will say is that there's help from the other side as well right now.
Yep.
Um, we are not, there's a lot of help for humanity, not from Earth.
Right.
If we choose to accept it and we choose to acknowledge it and we choose to let them help us.
And that's something that a lot of people have an issue with. But truly, there is a huge collective of love and light that is available to help. And you just need to ask. And I have had some really interesting conversations with various clergy about this collective. Excuse me. They don't want me talking, clearly. But it's, again, your intention. If
Mhm.
you set your intention, I'm only going to communicate with beings of 100% divine love and light, you're okay. There really are not in that collective beings that are demons masquerading as angels. That's not what this is about. This is a collective of otherworldly beings, other dimensional beings, multidimensional beings, and they all want to help humans. Beats me why, but they do. Um, so set your intention to connect with them, and it's amazing how
Mhm.
things change
Yeah.
for the weirder. No,
It's I've I've always felt, and I don't know if you feel this way. This is how I've always felt that with all the gifts that I have comes responsibility.
yeah,
And to put things out in a way that makes sense to people and yet not trying to convince anyone of anything.
Right.
That has never been my intention. I was having a conversation today with someone who has very different views than I do about everything going on right now in the world. And it's like, the really cool thing is we can have a conversation about it. No
Right.
one's calling anyone's names. No one's saying you're an idiot because you don't believe what I believe. And I think that that's what's lacking. That used to happen in society. Two
Yeah.
sides used to be able to discuss things and talk about them without
Right.
threatening violence and I
Right.
think that's just difficult.
That's definitely communication is what we need more of. We
Mm,
need more open-minded people. It seems to me like I remember some of these conversations being held around me when I was a child,
mhm,
and nobody was, nobody cared. It was a conversation, it was an exchange of ideas.
mhm,
And somewhere along the line, people have gotten very close-minded, very shut off from anything other than their doctrine, how they've been indoctrinated. And that's kind of what it comes down to. But recently, some of the most open minded people I've spoken with have been clergymen. And I went into these conversations not expecting them to be open minded at all. And yet I found that they were more okay, how did you come to this, conclusion? And why do you think this instead of that? And they were very open minded. It was great conversations.
mhm,
Not all of them are that open minded, but I've been very lucky lately. It's just what we need is more an exchange of ideas, get to learn about each other. Um, and the holidays are coming up, so there's going to be a lot of very tense office parties, I'm sure. So ask questions that at least make them think you care who these people are. I got yelled at one time by my ex because I went to a function with his um, business, his where he worked, and I said, "Well, how long have you been in the United States?" Because there was an Indian woman there, and she was dressed very traditionally. I said, "Have you? Did you grow up?" No, no, no. I'm from Bangladesh, and How long have you been here? And what do you like about being in this country? And she said, "Nothing."
mhm,
And he yelled at me for forcing a conversation. I didn't feel like I forced that conversation. And I am normally very introverted. I
mhm,
saw her being left out of other conversations. And apparently that was not the right thing to do. How dare you include other people? But we have to do more of that. We have to have more honest conversations.
mhm.
Find out about people who disagree with you. Because the more you find out about the people who disagree with you, the more you're going to realize you're the same. That's, I thought that was, basic human decency, but apparently I was wrong.
Well, but I think that what that comes down to, again, is that conversation about common sense. Some people may be super intelligent, but they have no common sense.
Mm-mm.
And I think that we're losing that with the fact that everything is through, and part of that was COVID, but even before that, everything is through screens. There wasn't as much human contact. And I think some of that got lost in translation. And then once everyone was already used to talking on screens and stuff like that, no one really wanted to go back to being in person and having conversations and things like that.
Right.
People liked being able to do their meetings in their pajamas and things like that. So,
Yeah.
I think that we are just at a crossroads as a humanity, and all these things that are manifesting is because we have no direction.
Yeah, exactly. And then you throw things like AI in the middle of it, and it's like, well, we may never, come face to face with another human again. Um, it's really dangerous in my mind, the way, looking at people on screens and holding your meetings, virtually. To me, it's really dangerous because we need that contact.
Mhm,
We need that human connection. We need that shake of a hand or a hug with a friend. We need that as human beings. And we're being desensitized. And that's making people be very, very angry and brutal with each other. And that's not the direction we want to go in.
But I don't think people understand that. They
I
don't
don't
understand why they're having the feelings that they're having.
Yeah.
And there's still all this fear left over. Like, fear never went away from that time period. It's just moved on to other things. It's underlying everything that we do.
It is. It is, especially in this country.
Mhm.
For some reason, I do a lot of interviews in Australia. I cannot explain it, but they seem to have a little bit different view of COVID and that whole energy.
Mhm.
Um, they got through it quicker,
Mhm.
generally. And it was more, all right, let's all work together. Let's all get through this. And it was, I think their leadership did a lot with that. It was very much drawing people together and let's help each other and all that kind of stuff. But here in the US, we were just like, fight for yourself. It's like, one for all, yeah, all for one. No, that was not the case here. We were all just kind of everywhere. We were shut down. In my area, which is very rural, I didn't see another person for like a month when it started.
Mhm.
And I know people in LA, they were locked down harsher and for
Mhm.
a longer period of time. And it was several months without seeing people. Well, what does that do to you? It makes you paranoid. It makes you very depressed. It's not the way to do it. We need to come back together.
And when you don't have that connection, it's easier to do not positive things because it's
Right.
easier to justify it.
And it's easier to say, well, nobody cares because nobody's coming by or nobody's calling or whatever. And I know a lot of people locally who
Mhm.
went through that. It was just, you couldn't go and see anybody and people just sort of lost touch.
Mhm.
And, I was the freak for calling people on the phone. It's like, but phones still work. We can still use the phone. But it was bad. And a lot of that fear got so ingrained in people
Mhm.
that you have the divisiveness on the political front. You have, attacks and natural disasters feeding that fear. And it's all fear feeding fear feeding fear.
You know, I'm going to go out on another limb, see what you
Yay.
think about this. Is that whenever the world is close to coming to an end, it always starts in the Middle East.
Uh-huh.
And so, I can't help but think about that with
Yeah.
this crisis going on, going, huh, we weren't supposed to be ending the world again. We had supposedly worked past that in the timeline. So it's just interesting to me.
What I just heard is everything is fluid, including the timelines. And when you have a buildup, it's like an earthquake on a fault line. If you have a bunch of little quakes, that's actually good. People freak out, but it's actually good because it lets the tension go.
Mhm.
So it stops building. But hate and anger are kind of the same. And when it creates such a big bubble that they were feeling it in other dimensions, that became a problem. So we need to turn this around. We need to do more compassion, more caring, more loving each other, more taking care of each other. That's really our only hope, really.
See, what the world needs now is love,
It's
sweet.
love.
It should be the theme song for the world right now.
It should. It should.
So, any of our viewers have any questions that you guys want us to answer? Now that Kelly and I have rambled for a good half hour,
We're good at that, though.
we are really good at rambling. Well, we just go wherever we're led to go. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't see any questions.
The one thing that they want me to address was the question that we were talking about before the show about protection. And individual protection is so important right now, especially for empaths. But even if you're not empathic, it's still very important. What I do, and it's very, very simple, and I do it every morning, is put yourself in a bubble. You can make it whatever color you want. Don't recommend black, but you can make it whatever color you want. Mine's clear. And just walk around in it all day. Set your intention that that bubble is going to protect you from darkness, from anger, from hate, from all the stuff in the world that's going on right now. And just do that for yourself. You just make it automatic when your feet hit the floor in the morning. You surround yourself with that protection bubble.
Somebody asked, do you think that celestial beings are going to intervene? They already are.
They are. They've been here for a while. Yeah. But
You know,
what's going to happen is all the hate and anger that they are feeling in other dimensions is sort of blown a hole around the Earth's protection energy. And that means that we're going to be seeing more not so pleasant celestial beings or other dimensional beings. They're already here too.
mhm.
So, it's, they're trying.
Well, Earth is the library, and everyone wants to be part of the library.
And some people just want it.
Mhm.
And that's the thing. But when you start talking about other entities,
Mm.
you have to understand that there are so many. We have not breached the surface of how many of that number. And as there are other levels of dimensions that I am told, we don't know that total number either. So we're kind of flying blind to an extent. And the only thing that we can really do is turn this hate and animosity stuff around.
And isn't that the point of being human, is that we forgot everything when we came back, and it's a rediscovering of it, and we chose this journey for a reason. We're just not doing a very good job right now.
Yeah, and my question is why? Why did we choose this? No, um, it's it's something we did agree to,
Mhm.
and it is something that we need to take charge of because we've kind of individually we've sort of let it go. I know for myself, I was very quiet and pretty much in hiding for a very long time because when I did step out into the light before, I got hurt really bad.
Mhm.
And I think there's a bunch of us that went through that.
Mhm.
So now that we're all kind of coming back out, it's more important than ever.
Mhm. I think somebody's asking if if it's going to be more an intense intervention. It actually, if you're open and you're hearing the messages, it is a pretty intense intervention.
Yeah,
But they also can't interfere with free will,
right,
and so that's the problem. You have two opposing sides right now, and there's a lot of free will.
right.
So,
Ultimately, they're doing what they can,
mhm,
and they are talking to many of us, and they are emphasizing the importance of rediscovering our humanity,
mhm.
compassion, and our love for each other, and our love for this planet, because that's the other thing. We are killing our own world, and that doesn't make anybody happy, not in our world, not in other worlds. So there's a lot going on. I know that there are beings that
Thanks for
are
saying that, because now they're showing me the movie Wally in my
but there are they're telling me to shut up. Okay. But they are helping. They are helping. So they
head.
are doing what they
I
can.
think the biggest thing to maybe think about is the help might not look like how we're going to expect it to look.
Right. Right.
But it doesn't mean that things aren't being done. It doesn't mean that people aren't being given direction as to how to help and what to do and what they can do. I know for myself, I've drawn two pictures for this, and released them out into the world for the energy of them to help. And so, we each just have to do our own little part because by doing that, little by little, the light will win over the dark.
Right. Right. And it does start with each individual.
Mhm.
So if everybody can just set the intention to send love and light to the world and to each other and to people that are hurting or trauma, everybody, then that will start. It's sort of like, those Christmas lights or those decorative lights that one goes out and they all go out. It's kind of like that. We need everybody. We
Mhm.
need everyone doing this.
I
It
personally like to send peace and grace because to me,
that
sometimes
works.
light just illuminates everything, and we don't necessarily want anything else illuminated right now.
Right. We've got a lot of stuff we probably want to keep in the dark for right this second.
So I like to send peace and grace.
That works too.
Yeah.
The point is send something positive out because there is so much negative that's just contaminated everything.
You can even just imagine that in the center of your chest, there's a green light, and that green light you send out to cover the entire world.
Yep.
Or you can imagine a rose pink colored light. It's like you could do anything that you feel called to do as long as it's a positive intention behind it.
Right. Your intention is everything.
Mhm. And I always add for the greatest good of humanity. Yeah.
Yep.
I always try to remember to add that in. All right. So we've decided maybe once a month we'll do a podcast,
Yep.
unless something comes up and we need to address it.
Right. Without being abducted by, yeah.
So maybe the middle of every month we'll do a podcast so that there'll be some sort of regular schedule again. So thanks everyone for hanging out with us tonight, for all your questions and support. And we'll see you guys all again really soon.
Yep.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.